My name is Monk Rowe for the Phileas Jazz Archive. I'm very pleased to have Luis Conte with me this afternoon. Afternoon for me, and you're on the other coast. So thanks to technology, we can sort of have a virtual handshake. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure, man.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Thanks
Earlier
for asking.
today, I caught a video of you. I think you might have made it for your website. I'm not sure, but it started off with you were sitting in front of three conga drums, and you were playing the 3/2 clave with your left foot, and then
Uh-huh.
and then you started doing your thing on the congas, and I just wanted to point out that I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. You know, because all that Cuban drum, if I'm playing congas and I'm playing authentic Cuban rhythms, it all relates to the clave, you know that. So I figured do a little bit of independence, put the clave on the foot and do that. I'm not the only guy that does that. A lot of the younger guys do that all the time, you know.
Years ago, I was doing an educational thing with a Latin band from Albany, New York, and we were trying to prepare the students to hear them and the teachers as well. And the clave, of course, came up. And I was listening to the band, and sometimes I'm going, where is it? No one's playing it in this particular song, but I assume it's still there in your mind.
Yeah, it's inside. If you grew up in that culture with that music, the clave is inside of you. You know, it's there, and we know doesn't necessarily have to be a percussionist. You know, the pianist, everyone that's playing knows where it is. If they know this music, you know, they really understand the music, the culture. It's just a thing. It maybe, you know, if we didn't have a drummer right now and a bass player and a guitar player start playing some real funky stuff, you immediately go to 2 and 4. It's inside of you. You have it. To us, to the Afro-Cuban drummer and musician, the clave is that. It's just like automatic, you know.
Were you able to hear American music when you were around 15 or so? I'd had a conversation with Ignacio Beroa, and
Yeah.
he talked about trying to pick up American radio stations and the gymnastics they had to go through with antennas and all this. And I'm wondering about your experience.
Yeah, well, uh, two things. One thing, my father was a doctor, but he loved music. My whole uh, paternal part of my family is totally musical. None of them are musicians, but they all played for fun, and they were doctors and professors. And my dad was a doctor, and he loved big band music. He loved all kinds of American. I listened to since I was a yay little boy. I listened to all the big bands, you know, Tommy Dorsey, et cetera, and Glenn Miller. He had everything. And up until when the embargo came. After that, you couldn't get any more American records. But and then he loved Nat King Cole, Sinatra, you know, and my sister. This is just before Castro. She's older than me, so Elvis came along, and Bill Haley and the Comets. She had all these records of all that. Ricky Nelson, I forget now some of the Gene Vincent. She had all these records of all these guys. So I grew up listening to this stuff in the house before the embargo thing happened. This is early because I was born in 51. So in 61 or so, by the time I was 10, that's when really things got really closed up. So in my first 10 years, I was listening to this music, American music in the house. Then all of a sudden, the embargo comes in and we can't get any more American music. And we don't know what's going on. We're totally closed off from the world. And a friend of ours that had left Cuba with his family sent one of my friends a letter with a bubblegum card in it of the Beatles. And, it, I'll never forget this. The letter says, "Hey man, this is what's happening now. These guys are called the Beatles, blah 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 blah. What is this? You know?" So my dad, it just worked out that my dad had just bought a radio, a Russian radio, Czechoslovakian. I don't know where this radio was from, portable, and I could get. I don't know the station. I never knew, but I would tune in and I would get this station that was in English. I never knew where it came from. I'm from Santiago, which is south of the island, southeast. So I don't think it was Miami or anything up there. It was too far. It could have been Jamaica or I don't know. Well, it was a pop radio. So they played, the Beatles, the Stones, Motown music, Aretha Franklin, all these, a whole soup of, the top 10 of what was happening. So that's my, my American music influence. And honestly, while I was in Cuba, I paid more attention to that than our actual traditional thing,
That's so interesting. I was wondering because you almost, I was thinking of a question about that because from my standpoint, the music that you were listening to, which I also loved, would be considered simpler than Cuban dance music. And did that occur to you later on that the music of your own country was more complex? Or am I off base here?
Oh yeah. I mean, once I got out here and I started, getting into music, I started, and now we start dealing with Latin music, Cuban music. The first thing I hear is guys going, "Well, is this 3/2 or 2/3?" For example, and I'm going, "What are you talking about?" I mean, play what you're playing. Is this, whatever? I said, no, but is it, So you realize that's when I realized, man, this a lot of people. I mean, and I would hear other musicians go like, "Yeah, Latin music, nobody plays one." That's another comment I would hear. But to me, it was just like what it was. Because in Cuba, I mean, I earlier said I didn't pay much attention to it. I was paying attention to it by osmosis because it was around, and my parents. The other thing about my parents is they love to hear bands and see performances, and I went with them since I was a kid. They would take me, so I was able to see Benny Moré. I remember seeing, on TV we would see Celia Cruz and these greats before they left Cuba and before they passed. So I was around this whole without not even knowing it. And my grandmother, one of the roots, Cuban music has definitely a serious African influence, such a huge African influence. And it comes from these tribes that came in the slave trade, such as Yorubas from Nigeria, the Congolese from the Congo, Bantus, and Abaquas or Ñáñigos. And I also got my grandmother, when I would go to Havana, I would go with her to some of these religious things where it's really the root of the drumming, with the bata drums. And I was hearing this stuff like, I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just a little kid, a little boy. But it's going in here.
Yeah, and it stayed, right? It came out later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's a quote I read from you. Music is almost like food to Cuban people, which I thought was a strong statement.
It's, the situation in Cuba is really hard right at this moment. And it's been for years. It's the communism thing and the whole bit on freedom and then the embargo and it's just, and now it's really getting super worse. But I did go back to visit in 2009 and 2010 and 2012. And man, let me tell you, these people, I mean, they're struggling. But at one point, I literally said, "Okay, can everybody just be quiet for a second?" Let's go. Because you walk down, you're at the hotel, the restaurant, they got like a killing song band. It's in Santiago, playing song, Then you're walking down the street and there's a trio in the corner, and then you go down and there's a rumba happening, and then you're walking down on another street and like the radio's blasting, and this goes on. It's food, man. That's how they keep alive, man.
I understand from your website that your parents arranged for you to leave in 1967.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what the conversation around the dinner table was like leading up to
Well,
that?
well, it didn't start at a dinner table. It started while I was in a car with my dad, and my dad would make house. He's a doctor, so he was making house visits, and sometimes I'd go with him because for whatever reason. And Castro is over there when Mr. Castro or whoever is in power now speaks. Everybody listens. Nothing else happens. The radio, everything is on. The speakers it's like Big Brother, the speakers in the street, and he's doing a speech, and he says, "From now on, the men from the age of 15 are in the military, and nobody leaves the island." That's what happened. And I'm sitting here in my dad's car, and I go immediately. I'm going. I didn't know anything about. I knew I wasn't free. I knew, and it was music was telling me, really, because I couldn't access this music I wanted to hear from the outside, for example, And anyway, so I told my dad, "Hey, Dad, did you hear that? I just turned 14, man. I'm never gonna get out of here." And he said, "Well, we're gonna have to, we gotta get you out of here. We gotta speak with your mom and see what she says. But he says, don't worry. We may not be able to go with you. You might have to go on your own, but we'll be out of here. We'll leave in like 6 months or so." Which is, he knew it wasn't true, and I thought it was true, but I didn't see my mom or dad until 7 years later, till I was 22, or even spoke with them, because there was no communications. It's not like now you got WhatsApp, and guys, I know some young Cuban friends of mine talk to their parents that are at home, or the grandparents that are left back there. I couldn't communicate with these guys except for telegram or letters. Anyway, so that's what happened. So my dad, it's a bit of a long story, but I didn't have a passport. Why would I get a passport if they don't want you to leave? Why would they? But my dad knew people in the government because he had helped a lot of people during the revolution. When the revolution happened, Castro lied to everyone. We all know that. We thought he was the Messiah, and he turned out to be a dictator once he took over. But during that revolution, like my uncle and my dad, they were supportive of the revolution. And my dad helped some guys, being a doctor, in the city of Santiago. And these guys were now in the government. And he was able to, I don't know how he was able to get me a passport, but he got me a passport. And he got me an exit. It's a blessing, man. I mean, I'm Christian, and I believe in Jesus and God, man, and I think they had their hand on me and got me out of there. Because anyway, I was able to get a visit, exit, and it's funny because the excuse that I went, you have to have excuse. Why is this young man leaving? Well, he's going to get an education. Well, and the government's going, we have the greatest education in Latin America, so they say. So where's he going to go study? He says, because he wants to study. It's not taught in the island. Well, what is that? He says, he wants to be a Catholic priest. He wants to be in a clergy. And that was oh, okay. Okay, well, granted,
Did they expect you to come back?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The thing is, he's coming back. He's going. he's coming back to help our people, blah, 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 blah. We love the revolution, blah, blah, blah. The whole bit, man.
A whole bit.
Yeah. So I
Did
was
you
able to get out. Yeah.
and you finally got to Los Angeles? Did you were you homesick?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. There were times, uh, I ended up coming to Hollywood because there was a third cousin of my dad that lived here, and they were wonderful, and I was there during high school. Uh, but there were times where I said, I want to go back. I really miss my family, my mom and dad and my sister, and I never saw my grandparents. Um, my father's side of my father's dad and mom, I never saw them again. My grandfather on my mother's side had passed, but my grandmother's the only one. My mom's mom, she came when my parents left, but I left it over here. I wanted to go back. I wanted to.
Did your parents ever leave?
Yeah, yeah. So 7 years later,
Oh.
they were able to leave. The same way I went, I had to go to Spain. Right? I flew to Spain, and so did they. They had these freedom flights that would go to either Spain or Mexico, I believe. And their flight went to Spain, and in Spain they were there. And by then I was a resident here and everything. I claimed them, and they came, and we got back together. It was wonderful.
Well, you had to work for it.
Oh yeah, it wasn't easy.
Was there a point that you can think of that you decided that you were going to become a professional musician? Was it gradual, or was there like a turning point?
It was. Well, I have to explain to you because I never thought I was going to be a musician. I'm a really late guy, super late guy. I played music since I was a little boy. I played guitar also. I had lots of guitar lessons when I was in Cuba. I was able to learn how to play song and some things like that from a traditional, a wonderful teacher. And I had conga, bongo. I didn't have timbales, güiro, maraca. I had everything, and I would play. And sometimes my parents would have parties, and Compay Segundo from he was a singer on one of the singers on Buena Vista Social Club. The guy that wrote Chan Chan. Those guys were friends of my dad. They're all from Santiago. And these guys would come in the house and they would have these parties. And I just sitting there and go, baka chiki, baka chiki, baka chiki, baka, not even knowing. So I come out here. You got think of this, man. This is a 15-year-old just detached from his world in Hollywood. I don't know. I was lost. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just floating around. I wanted to finish high school. Then I guess you got to go to college. I don't have any money, so I can't go to a expensive college. I go to a city college. And I still wasn't thinking of being a musician. I didn't know what I was going to do.
Was there any course of study that you were pursuing just for something to?
I thought for a minute, since my dad was a doctor, I was going to go into the medical field. So I started taking biology and all these physics and chemistry, and I did well. But there was something missing, man. And like the student body, what do they call it? The Latin American Student Body Association, of Los Angeles City College. I started meeting all these guys, and we have little parties. And then one day, I go to class, and the African American Student Association had an event. This is in the 70s, when the Afro-American man is finding their identity, the afros and the dashikis and all that stuff. It's beautiful, man. And I heard congas, man. And I went, boom, forget the class. I went in there. These guys were playing. And I went up to him and says, hey, where did you get these drums, man? They go, oh, well, these are Val J's. We got them over there on Sunset and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Really? They said, yeah, the phone number is right there on the drums. They had a little tag. So I wrote the phone number down and says, can I play? I said, yeah. I gave it a whack, man. Like these guys go, man, you can play. I said, well, I'm from Cuba, man. It's just like, you know. And that's when I went. I found a drum, man. That's when I found it. I went, oh, all right, this is I'm gonna do this. Where do you guys play? Where does this happen? Where are the guys up? This and that, blah blah. Just boom. It was like I became a vacuum cleaner of information, just getting everything in there, man. Super late. I was like 18, almost 19.
That's really fascinating. I wonder if you had the experience, perhaps at the city college, where you were taking a music course and the professor started talking about Latin music, explaining it, and you're sitting there thinking, hey, I already lived this.
Yeah. No, it didn't happen that way. It happened the way I'm telling you. But then immediately I said, okay, I'm changing some classes here. I know a little bit of theory and solfeo and things like that since the guitar. So I'm going to take some music theory, piano, beginning piano. I mean, and percussion ensemble. I heard it, and I would go and listen to the what's it, the noon band, the 12 o'clock band. I forget, there was a big band. They would go there and listen, and then I eventually asked if I could sit in. And I mean, and my musicians, Mr. Spano was one of my teachers. Yeah, the mention of Latin music was never mentioned back in those days. It was just theory and the big band. It was a big band jazz band. They never played Latin tunes.
You
Those
went
are
to
the
if you went to sit in with the this band you mentioned, and probably they were playing mostly, well, I'm making an assumption here, swing or
yeah,
perhaps some rock at the time.
right.
How did you know what to do with a swing groove? And did you get the feeling that you were kind of intruding on the goings on?
No, man. I mean, maybe it's because I listened to so much American music as a kid. I just, oh, ding, ding, just swing. It's tumbao. It's what we call tumbao in Afro-Cuban, but just swing it. That's all it is. But I never heard. By that at that time, I had never heard of Chano Pozo. I had never heard of any of this. I didn't know anything, man. I really didn't of any of the. That's when I started finding out who. I had never heard of Mongo Santa Maria. I had never heard of Tito Puente. I had never heard of Patato Valdez. These are guys that had left. I knew of Papin, Tatawine. I had seen Los Muñequitos de Matanzas, et cetera, et cetera, when I was a boy. But the guys that were out here, so I don't know, I'm just floating, man.
I bet you had some revelations along the way. I mean, at that time there was some hit records by those fellas like Watermelon Man and some of the more accessible tunes.
Yeah. And I started hearing all this stuff from other friends that knew about this. Oh man, you gotta listen. Have you heard Mongo? So and so. I met a guy that was going to LACC also. His name was John Montealegre, was his last name. It was an African American man, but with the last name Montealegre. And he lived in Pasadena, and he had a set of congas. So we hit it off, and I would go and hang out with him with a couple of friends, young guys, just partying Friday night, Saturday night over at his house, and just like listening to music. And other guys would like. I found out about Fania, the label Fania. That was the big, of what they call salsa now, of Cuban music. The label was Willie Colon and Eddie Palmieri. I went to at a park out here at Griffith Park. There was guys would get together and play drums, and I called them thunder drummers because I was used to hearing when you play in Cuba percussion ensemble is playing. You're playing a bunch of conga players, and you have a comparsa or something in carnival. I mean, everything is organized. All the parts are organized. Over here, it's like a drum circle. Over here, you got guys that just go booga 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 booga. So I kind of went like, well, this is not quite happening. But one day, there was I heard some other stuff under some other tree, and there was this Cuban dude and this Puerto Rican cat, and he had a this is how I found out about Fania. He had a cassette, and he was Willie Colon. And I went, dude, that's Cuban music. And I said, well, yeah, this is from New York, this and that. I says, yeah, but who is this? I said, well, this is Willie Colon. I says, well, where do you get these records? And there was one, at that time, this is the 70s, one record shop that carried this music. And it was downtown LA called Doran Music. So I went there, whatever little money I had, I bought a Willie Colon record, I bought a Puente album, and I bought an Eddie Palmieri Azúcar para Ti. I still have them. And it was all happening, man. But it just, for me to go into, if you play a little funk, I'll just figure something out. And I've heard the tambourines, and I've heard all that before. I'll say one thing. I would know sometimes if you listen to some songs, I can't think of them now. Sometimes the conga pattern was turned around as a Cuban would play it. There was like do do back do, and I would go, okay, well,
You mean
that's not really right.
it sounded more like you were doing like what a drummer might do on their tom-toms. Maybe back under the measure or something like that.
Yeah.
That's
and
really an intriguing story. Can you recall the first time you made money on a gig, and how much was it?
Oh man, I made $25 while being in ACC. Another friend of mine that I met from Santiago said, "Hey man, there's this club down here in Vermont, and anyways, the club was called Ches Pico, and there was a band with the leader was the conga player. His name was Chocolate. I never found out his real name. He was really a dark black Cuban. Chocolate, they call him Chocolate. And his wife Sylvia. And then he had a timbal player, bass player, piano player. He played the congas, and Sylvia sang. It's a small group. And I started going there. I go in and try to meet them. I wanted to play. And I go, hey, man, I'm from Santiago, from Cuba, I just got here. I lied a little bit. I says, hey, man, I used to play in Cuba, I played the so-and-so. I was like, I just made shit up, man. I say, oh, yeah, they're probably looking at me as like, this little punk, they're like, yeah, don't be jiving us, man.
Yeah, well, sure, go ahead, take our gig.
Yeah, sure, man. They were probably, now I thought about it, I was like, this guy's probably thought I was a fool, man. I started like playing him on. Anyway, so from that gig, he said, I said, hey, can I bring some bongos and sit in with you guys? You got a conga player and a timbal player. So, yeah, okay, bring some bongo, So I would go down there and play bongos with them, for free. And Chocolate one day says, hey, we have a wedding on Saturday, and I'm going to have a little bigger band. You want to play bongos with us? Man, I thought I went, yeah. I didn't even ask him about money, I said, well, he's going to pay $25. I go, great. I'm in, man. Yeah. So that was my first thing, man, my first little gig. And it just started rolling from there. Things started happening.
They sure did. I'm going to fast forward a little bit, but on your website and on Googling you, I went through the trouble of counting all the credits they had for you
in the website.
In this, yeah, and also on just Googled it, and I think I counted 67, and then it said and many more.
Yeah,
of all the people you've played with.
Yeah.
So I had a question about. There's some Latin groups that did not have a drum set, but most of the time I'm guessing that you have a drummer and then there's you. And is there a process of sort of negotiating with the drummer about how is this gonna mesh?
Well, my theory on that is like if are we talking about a Latin band or a
Not
non-Latin?
necessarily. I'm talking about a lot of the studio work you do, and
Okay, yeah. I if it's not a non-Latin thing, so it's all the other work that I do, that most of the work that I do, I'm the salt and pepper in the dish, and the drummer is the potatoes and the meat and the stuff. So I take a back seat. I try to stay. I'm not. A lot of people say, "Man, you and so and so play so well together. You and so and so play so well together." So I'm just like, finding my space without getting in his space. You know. So I look at it that way. It's not like really taking a back seat, but I just compliment the groove of what's going on in the music. Uh, Without being in the way of what the drummer is doing. It's hard to explain, but you gotta just take a back seat to that. If he turns around and we're playing a Latin tune, then I'm taking the front seat.
yeah. Is it
If I explain that right.
yeah, that makes sense. And also it may depend somewhat on the form of the song. Is there any times where you just feel like my contribution here is to not play?
Oh yeah, lay out or play something. You have a percussion set, so go to another color. And I hear, maybe because I played guitar and I hear the chords. I don't know exactly what the chords are, but if I don't have a chart or anything like that, but I hear the changes. I'm aware of all of that when I'm playing. It's very important to know that, because it's music. You're beating on things, but you're playing music. James Taylor says, "Man, Luis Conte, he hits things that makes music." Well, you're part of the music, so there are chords here, and there are notes, and there are matices. How do you say that? There's, I forget the word in English, but dynamics and all that stuff. So sometimes you go to a small thing. It's not all this. And also, even sometimes if you're playing, let's say you're playing congas, you can't really play. Sometimes the traditional, even though it would be like the tumbao would work, sometimes you don't play it as full as you would play it in a real Latin band, because you don't need all those eighth notes. That's being over here already. I mean, you learn doing that. I learned that on doing a lot of sessions. Sometimes they go, "Hey man, he's a little busy." I just cut back the 16ths or the eighths. Right, so you got boom boom, boom boom. It's a little busy. How about like two two? It's that simple, and it makes sense.
You're serving the song. You have to serve the song, correct?
You serve the song. The music is what rules. You are just adding.
Did you have a similar memorable experience with your first studio date? I mean, you described your first paying gig really well. And do you recall the first time someone said, "Well, we want you to record"? And you go, "Ooh, what's that?"
Well, my very first recording was with a Cuban, a Latin band or Cuban band or salsa band, you call now. Was with Camilo Azuquita. He was a singer from Panama, of Cuban descent, that moved to LA, and it was actually my first cool salsa gig in LA, way back. And he wanted to record a 45. Back in those days, there were 45s and 2 songs, and I was the conga player in the band. And I went to the studio. I never been in the studio. I never seen this, and I realized that I played the congas, and we needed somebody to play guido. We didn't have a guido player. I said, I'll do it. And I played over the track I had just played. You know, that thing that I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, overdubbing.
Yeah, overdub. So I overdubbed the guido, and then I overdubbed the maracas. And I went like, I want to do this. I love this. Yeah, that's my first experience, man,
Yeah.
with Azuquita. And but so here's the next thing though. So I had seen the recording studio. Now I'm going, man. I hope somebody calls me for a session. You're networking. Hey, here's my number, man. Blah blah blah. And I get a call. Unfortunately, I don't remember who these guys were, but I get a call. It was for a TV show. It wasn't a good experience, huh? A TV show that was Journey to the Unknown or something like that. It was with Leonard Nimoy. It was a show. It didn't last long, that show. Leonard Nimoy was the host, and he would talk about these weird things, supernatural things or whatever. And I get called. Yeah, we need somebody to play. Can you bring some congas? So I brought my congas. And it was this experience of the red light went on, and I played what I thought was cool, and they didn't dig it. And they said it was either too busy or I froze, man. I literally froze. I didn't know what to do. So I wasn't sure what they were telling me what to do. So I just tried something else. That didn't work out. And we threw it again. That didn't work out. I said, okay, well, thanks so much, Luis. They gave me a check. Really appreciate it, man. Thank you. Bye. Okay, thanks. Bye. I get in my car. I'm driving out. As I'm driving out, I see another percussionist come in. It just broke my heart. So there's good experiences and bad experiences. I got nailed. So then I tried to find out what happened, And I called my buddy. So the guy that was coming in was a friend of mine. His name was Hector Andrade, who's passed now. And we called him Bucky. We became really, really good friends. We were already really good friends. And I called him the next day. I said, hey, man, I saw you coming into the studio. I was totally bummed out. I just left. I was crying. I said, what happened? I don't know. They didn't. Did you do that session? He goes, yeah. Yeah, they just wanted this thing. And you just got to play simpler, man. It's not. He told me, man, this is not Cuban music. They didn't want that. They wanted. I went, oh, So I just focus on.
Sometimes the producers, if they don't know the music, they may have a hard time telling you what they want. But when you play it now, oh yeah, that's what we want, but I can't tell you.
That could have been it. That's probably what it be, because hindsight, much later, now that I've had lots of experience recording, I walk in the studio and I can tell if this guy knows what the hell's going on or not. And I know how to play them. I totally know how to turn them around and play them. I'm not mentioning names, but man, there's some guys that you think that would know. They have no idea. And a great producer really calls you because they know, by now they know what you do. And they let you do what you do, And they're open to your ideas. And once you play, sometimes maybe you played something that they don't dig, and they may say, hey, maybe try some different pattern, or maybe that's a little too busy or something. Or maybe you have a different instrument. But they let you come in and do your thing.
Do they give you a heads up about this session and say, please bring X, please bring this and that? Or
on movies, on film work, a lot of the times, yeah. Film work, yeah. But on records, yeah, sometimes sometimes they may say, hey, by the way, do you have woodoos? This is clay pot. It's something special. They would ask us, yeah, okay. I think we're gonna need some of those,
Yeah.
But I have a really good um, assortment of stuff that I sent. So a lot of the times I'm not really missing much of what they need, But at times they do ask for certain things. They may ask for a frame drum. Hey, I think one of those things, or Irish drum, a baran, or something like that. Well, I've got it. So I'm glad you told me because I wouldn't have sent it. So
I have
there,
a
you
little
know,
I have a little story here from Don Elias.
yeah,
Um, I was able to speak with him, and he had this story that he got a call from to play with Mick Jagger recording, and he said, "I brought every piece of percussion I could get my hands on: littlest shakers, big drums, small drums, tambourines, a whole van load. I wanted to be ready. Turns out all they wanted me to do was play fills on a sin drum. Boom." So I sat there
yeah,
for 6 hours going, boom.
yeah. Well, I went to do a Madonna recording, and I sent everything I thought because it was for the movie Dick Tracy. I sent everything I owned, and I ended up playing triangle. It was triangle on this one song. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, great, we got it. Thanks, Luis. Okay, see ya. So you never know.
You get paid by the note.
Yeah, yeah. But you have to have. Uh, the other thing is also thing I learned early on is it's not just one cowbell. It's a whole bunch of cowbells. It's not just one triangle, a bunch of triangles. It's not just one shaker, a bunch of other shakers, because it there's a track. This particular cowbell may not really work with that track. You have a different tone. You learn. There's a lot of you need a lot of stuff because you don't know.
That's a good quote. We need a lot of stuff.
Yeah, man, you need a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff. I got so much gear. I don't know what to do with it.
You have a cartage system. I have people move stuff around for you.
Yeah. Uh, um, Angel City Drumworks is the name of the company, and they have like I think I'm the only percussion player they have, but they also have you have a lot of drummers. Have Erskine, Peter Erskine, JR, a bunch of cats,
Okay.
and they take us around in the studios. But the new world now is having a home recording studio. So I have one, and thank God I've been pretty busy about it with it. And a lot of sessions happen now, though. You don't go anywhere. You just do them here.
They
Overdubs.
they send you a track and you
Yeah.
can add, yeah. I have another quote here. I'm sure the studio scene, as you mentioned, has changed a lot. And this is from your James Taylor bandmate, Lou Marini. He was talking about the way songs are put together these days. And he said, when I listen to these vocoder vocals and the rhythm tracks, you could just as easily be listening to a washing machine. Luis Conte is a master percussionist. He's always playing stuff for us from African tribal music, Caribbean, Brazilian. It's so much more complex. The grooves are so intense that it makes the electronic stuff seem stupid. It seems infantile compared to what humans do on the naturally.
Totally agreed. Of course, man. You know what I call some, and I work on some of these. I could tell you some things, man. I work on some of these. The modern music that you hear on the radio. It sounds like wallpaper music to me. That's what I call it. I call it wallpaper music. It's just wallpaper. It's all this. Do you notice the wallpaper? No. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's there's like a formula, and if it's just now it's sad, man. You have this one artist becomes a huge hit. Now you have every record company has their artist that is like that artist. What happened to diversity? That's what's going on now, man. So you go back to the tribal stuff, and that's why I play these guys all that kinds of stuff. They love it, and Gad and those guys. Yeah, it's another world now, and the machines, and It's just, you know, what about this? I will go in and work on a song. If I'm doing it in my house, that doesn't happen. I play the first chorus, I play the second chorus, and I play the outro. But you nowadays, I've done sessions, big acts, man, big artists, and you play the first chorus. I played, let's say I play congas, I play whatever, three, four, five instruments. Okay, we got it. I
I
said,
was
what do you mean you
afraid you were
got it?
going to. I was afraid you were going to say that they're just copying pasting, right?
Copy paste. I said, what do you mean you got it, man? Yeah, yeah. Well, you just played. I remember doing this one. I'm not mentioning anything who they were, but I played. They wanted some timbale fills, and I did the timbale fills on the first chorus. I said, okay, we're good. I said, bro, you're not good. I mean, you're gonna play the same fills in the. I mean, whatever. You have to argue with them. It's. I tell you another. You want another story that's kind of crazy? I go in to do a session, and I had already. I knew all the horn players that were before me. There was a session before me with a section. It was Dan Higgins and Jerry Hay and the late Gary Grant and Bill Rockenbach. Those four guys that played in all the Michael Jackson, all the great stuff. And I know they have been there because I have been working with them earlier. And I said, no, we're going over there to work. So I said, okay, I'm going to be there at 7. Okay, so I get there, so my 7 o'clock session, and I'm recording. Um, and let's take a little break. I take a break, and in another room, I hear horns, and it's those guys that are the horns that the. And I walk in and hey, how you guys doing? All right, hey. What are you guys doing? He says, oh man, yeah, we just had the horn section and we're lining up the horns. I said, you're lining up the horns? Michael Jackson's Thriller. Those are the guys on that song, on that record. They didn't line those horns up back then. Horn players breathe a certain way. The reason why they call those four guys to do all these record dates that are so funky on Al Jarreau or Michael Jackson, Edwin, whatever, you name it. The reason why they call them is because it's a section, and they breathe a certain way, and they play together, and that's the beauty of the thing. You guys are lining this shit up. What?
They're lining it up.
Yeah, they're lining to whatever.
I know what you mean. Yeah, because they can see it. They can see the waveforms.
Yeah.
They can literally like move something incrementally. Oh, good Lord. In other words, let's take all the human feel out of this. It'll be better.
There you go. That's what's up. That's 2025.
People who aspire to this life, they may not know that it's, partly gone, but I think they're probably envious of what you and these other fellows you mentioned do. Is there any downside or challenges that you've had to deal with this life, which is, in the studios a lot, but also then touring and so forth?
Well, I mean, it's not an easy life, man. The famous line is like, you're as good as your last phone call. That's the real world. That's the real world. I mean, I've done huge tours, and you come home and you got to keep working. So you got to wait for the phone to ring. So you're as good as if the phone doesn't ring, well, oh yeah, you just toured with Madonna. Great. What have you been doing the last 3 months? Well, I've been doing nothing. That wasn't the case, but it's not an easy life. And the other side of that, the road thing, the session thing, you just don't say no. First of all, you don't say no to any gigs, man. That's my philosophy. I don't say no. I'm free, I'll be there. And then you go on tour. The touring thing, the one thing about I enjoy being out there because I like seeing people, and I like to feel the air moving when I'm playing. Not that it's a whole other thing. when the studio work was really, really super busy, you were doing 3 sessions a day. Guys would tell me, man, what are you going on tour with Phil Collins? Well, man, because I'm gonna like take a break from this, being in this room, to like, you know, I'm seeing the air move. And but you do miss your family, family. I've been blessed with a wonderful wife, and I've known her. We go back from before the times of chocolate. That's how long we've known each other. And she's been very patient, and she was a great mom. I've had a couple of kids, so I've been really blessed with that. But it can be really hard on families and
Yeah, I bet your kids.
being on the road. So it's not an easy thing.
Yeah,
So you just stay focused and pray.
your kids probably learned early on what the word gig meant.
Oh,
Yeah, Dad's got a gig tonight again.
yeah, yeah. I missed. Well, listen, I missed my son's birth, which my wife was early, and I was in Vegas. Luckily, I was in Vegas, so I just got home immediately. But I was out there playing, and she was like 2 weeks early, and I was gonna come home in like 3 days later, and I get a phone call that there's a patient. In those days, they used to page people in the casinos, patient Luis Conte. What the hell's going on? Well, my dad's going, you just had a boy. You go, oh man. So, there's an example, which I wish I would have been there, but they understand. And they've come along. I've also been really blessed on having some great tours where I've been able to bring them along when they were young. My kids have traveled the whole world, man. Madonna used to allow the families, if you had kids, bring the wife and the kid. They get on the plane and we just go. And Phil also. So it's
kind of
cool.
After you did like a couple hundred studio dates, I'm guessing that you stopped reporting on every one of them when you got home. I mean, here in Central New York, we don't. If you do a studio date, it's sort of an event, and you come home and say, "Hey, how did it go?" Well, what would really make you bring this up? What your date was like today to your wife or your kids? This was significant. What kind of date?
If I played on a song, if this is a record, and I played on a song that I thought was really going to be a hit, then I remember I played on an Eric Clapton song. It's called Change the World. I think that's the name. Change the World. It was a hit. And I remember going in, the producer was Babyface. And I went to overdub. They already had, JR had played drums, Paul Jackson Jr., and Eric was going to come in and play the guitar. And here's an example of a great producer. Babyface would come in, says, hey, check it out. Listen to the song. He goes, you know what to do. Just went in there and did my thing. But the song was so great. I came home and I went like, I think I just played a hit song. Really? Eric Clapton. Okay. And another time was, this is a more modern, there's a girl, Colby Calais is her name. There's a song called Bubbly. It was a huge hit when my daughter was just getting out of high school. And the weird thing was, is like, I knew that song was going to be a hit. I could feel it. And I went in and I just mentioned it to my wife. Hey, I think I played this girl, Colby Calais, man. And my daughter goes, Colby Calais? She went to high school with me. I go, really? He says, yeah. Well, I did a song. It's going to be a hit. And he was. But that's rarely. I don't talk much about it. I'm just, if it's like like Chucho Valdez came to town and I just played with him, then I'd be talking about it. I'd be going, man, I just played. Irakere came, when Irakere was together, they came to play here in LA and their conga player did not get a visa. And they called me. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? I'll tell you, you want to hear what happened? I'll tell you real quick. I was doing actually, as they called me up and it was a show that we're doing at UCLA. And I was actually in the daytime. I had to do. I was working on a record with Sheryl Crow, who's another big star, right? And Hugh Pageant and them. And he says, you got to get there by 6 o'clock. The show's at 8. He says, okay, yeah, I can get there because the session should go till 5. But of course, it's a record, so it's not really going just right. And I just went 5 o'clock. I went like, Hugh, I'm sorry, bro. I got to go. I'll be back tomorrow. He says, okay, blah, blah, blah. So I get over there, and I'm so excited because Irakere, man. I mean, and those guys are like backstage, and I walk in, and I must have sounded like I was a groupie, man, because I'm going like, Chucho, man, I listen to this song, and this, man, I love you guys, man, this and that, blah, 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 Carlos Del Puerto, and Frank Emilio, and blah, 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 just, and they were looking at me as like, okay, cool. So, no rehearsal. So they had already sound checked. So I go up there and I start playing. The first song they play is Mambo Influenciado. And Chucho goes, hey, when there's a break coming up, I'll give you a look. Just keep your eyes open, I said, yeah, cool. I know all their tunes, man. So the song, we finished it. Boom, I nailed everything. And Chucho stops the show and goes like, stands up and looks at me and goes like, hey, all that stuff that you were saying is true. I'll never forget that. But stuff like that, man, I would talk about that all day.
Right. I went down your list with a little mind exercise. I said, I'm going to choose 2 people that you played with or bands that seem the farthest extreme possible. So I chose Barbra Streisand and Rancid.
Yeah. Wow. Right. Check that out. No kidding. I never even thought of that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, what would Rancid want?
Barbara, 100-piece orchestra over at Rancid. They were playing and they wanted me to play timbales. I don't remember what else I played, but I remember playing timbales with them. And they just want me to rock out, like, go, man, okay. Wow, that's a good comparison.
Was it a live thing or did you have to do headphones? Yeah, I was guessing maybe a live thing you could really rock out better.
Yeah. And they were totally cool guys, man. They were, you think these guys would be intimidating and stuff. I mean, they were very, very cool. We got along real well. It was spend a day with them. But yeah, that's totally like crazy.
That's going to be on your mind later. Barbra Streisand and Rancid.
Well, I'm going to write that down.
This has been a fascinating chat, and I just wanted to end up with, it's sort of a heavy question, but you came out of a society that you literally had to leave because of the government, and I'm wondering what you're thinking of America in 2025, considering your experiences.
Man, it's like a yin and a yang because I've been in socialism and communism, and I know some of the government is going towards the left, and I'm not. I've seen that, but then I don't like the other side of what's happening also, because it's like, the ICE thing and the it's just, I don't want to say fascist because I think it's wrong when people mentioning fascism, but there's things that it's not right what's going on the right side either. So it's like 2 things, and none of us is not right now. I believe none of it is good. None of it is right. It's a serious mess. My wife and I talk about it. Like, we have a grandkid. I said, man, we're not going to be around much longer. I mean, we're not at the end of the thing, but my kids and my grandkids. I mean, what's the USA going to be like? I mean, you have all this division. It could be a civil war, man. I'm Christian, and then you got the Muslims coming, but then you got this Christian guy. I just saw a thing in Michigan, some guy, insulting, going out of his way to insult. What's up with that? That's not being a Christian, you know. And it's like it's this. It's just, and then the news networks. It's things are crazy, man. It's they try to. I think that they're trying to divide us instead of put us together.
Mhm.
Whoever the powers that be, all this government thing is happening, they're trying to make divide us instead of being united. That's a failure, man, coming up.
Yeah. We're
That's
having
my
the
take on it.
same conversations in our house
Hmm?
with our kids too. We're having the same conversations. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
man, it's sad.
what's next up on your calendar?
Well, man, I just released a record called Ropa Vieja with a really good friend, and he's from my area of the island. I always been in LA. The tres guitar is not a very popular guitar. It's a Cuban guitar. You know that instrument, tres?
Hmm.
And I always wish, man, I wish there was a really good tresero in LA. And this guy shows up, San Miguel. So we did a record together. So we're just trying to get that going more. It's just so much fun. We just did a gig on a Monday morning. This last week, past Monday, and it was so cool. It was just tres, percussion, and a bass player, and we all sing. And tomorrow we're getting together. We're gonna do a video. We're going to the studio and do a video so we can get an EPK and get the thing to get booked. So that's my next focus. Is like I want to do my thing now. I've
Yeah,
done all this time playing for people.
you've
I want
paid
to do
enough dues, man.
yeah, man. And I also got a 7-piece band that we sell out the Baked Potato, that club, and we want to get that going too, and just keep making music and I'll do sessions for people, but I'm more focused on the real thing now.
Right.
Nothing better than that.
Yeah.
Nothing better,
It's like the music is still your food.
man. I don't know if you read this, but I put this on my website. I don't know if it's on the website, but I had an interview and I didn't come up with this line, but this guy wrote this line. He says, to ask me how long I've been playing percussion and playing music is to ask me how long I've been breathing. And it's really it. Because since I was a little kid, man, I mean, I had pots and pans. I started with pots and pans. And then the guitar. I just love it.
One day you might get a call from a producer and say, Luis, can you bring like your pots and pans?
Hey, that happened to me with Dr. John. We were doing a record with an artist named Willie DeVille, and Mac was producing. And the first tune, I go, hey, Mac, so what do you want me to play on this, man? Or playing it live. He says, what? He goes, man, you know what to do. This is Pots and Pans music. I go, okay.
And I thought I was making a joke.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed this and thank you for your time. Best of luck with your ongoing projects.
Yes, sir. Where are you exactly? In New York, right?
Yes, I'm in Rochester. Yep.
Right. Okay. Well, I hope I get to meet you in person
I hope
one day,
so.
man. If we're out there with James or something, you got to come out.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Please.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
All right. I'll pause our recording here. We'll say our goodbyes.